It is Sunday. It is day 4 as we bring you some content here on Move the Sticks. Rhett Lewis, Bucky Brooks back with you. Offensive linemen are getting ready to roll, but we are looking back at day 3. Top performers, running backs, quarterbacks, wideouts. It was a fast Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium, my friend. And it started with the running backs. Let's go top dog, right? Jeremiah Love. Over 200 pounds, over 6 foot.
Yeah.
4.36 in the 40. Bucky.
Rhett, so here's the thing. So as an evaluator, you look at the tape and you check off all these boxes, right? You see him like, oh man, the production is there. You look at the skill set. Man, he can jump cut, he has balance, he has body control, he can take it the distance. The burst is there, yada, yada, yada. Now you come and you're like, okay, well, what kind of athlete are we talking about? And Red, he's exposed. You talked about 4.36 in the 40. You watch him go through the drills, the movement. I think he might have the best jump cut that I've seen since LT, LaDainian Thompson. When you watch him in the drill, Red, he jumps from one side of the field, it seemed like all the way to the other hash. And it's so easy for him. To me, he is one of the easiest prospects that you can scout because everything that you look for physically, he checks off all the boxes. To me, man, we're talking about a top 5 pick, and I'm saying this, I think he's the best prospect in the class. I think confidently, if you're a team that is looking at a running back and saying, man, this is a game changer, you could talk yourself into taking him within one of the first 4 or 5 picks.
Look, I talked to you about this on our show today. The last Notre Dame running back to go in the top 10, the bus, Jerome Bettis. Now, he didn't run 4.36.
No. But, now, Big Bus, he wasn't running that, but
no, he was.
It speaks to what you're talking about, a franchise guy. I know people talk about Bijan Robinson and those things, but when he's been given a rock and he's had protection or blocking up front, he has been as special as they come. There's no reason why Jeremiah Love can't do those same things.
Yeah, Saquon, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty, Leonard Fournette, guys that have gone in the top 10, like Jeremiah Love fits that build. Now, 4.36 was fast, but it was not the fastest 40-yard dash time from the running back group. That distinction belonged to an Arkansas Razorback, Mike Washington. Now, 4.33 at over 210 pounds. That is, I mean, this is 6'1", 210. Like that, again, that's incredible.
Yeah.
The 40s just keep getting faster. This is the fastest running back group that we've ever seen since we've been tracking it at the Combine. But going back to Washington, so I'll give you the other numbers here. 151 was the 10-yard split. That's, again, incredible, and that's, compensate when you're talking about what the ultimate 40-yard dash was. He didn't end up doing any of the. He did the jump, the 10'8" in the broad, and then the vert was 40. The vert was 39. So there's correlation, right, with high jumps and fast times.
Absolutely. Like he's big, fast. We talk about physical. You just don't see big men like that. Now, you had a chance to see him, and the buzz started building about what he did at the Senior Bowl, the practices. And so as we talk about the arc, as we're going into the draft, you always want to be ascending on that path. And so you look at what he did during the regular season, the Senior Bowl, he crushes it, kills the combine, 4.33, 39-inch vertical. The explosiveness is there. Now you begin to build a case. Are we going to talk about Mike Washington coming off the board on day 2, second or third round? Somewhere in that conversation, his name has to come up. And it was already a pretty impressive group, a pretty solid group of athletes that are playing running back. But man, there are not many guys that can put up with his resume when we talk about athletically and the way that he rocked down in Mobile.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. As he didn't do any of the field drills, but you saw the practical application of his speed and athleticism, as you mentioned, during the practice week in Mobile. Okay, let's get into some of the other running backs. I know you were a fan of what Seth McGowan was able to show here. And look, he's another guy who actually showed up in a big way, was Practice Player of the Week for his group down at the Senior Bowl as well.
So what we're talking about, the last two guys that we're talking about, first Washington and McGowan, 6 foot, 223 pounds.
Big
at a time where it's hard to find big running backs. These guys not only are big, but they have these athletic attributes that you love. 4.49, 40, 42.5-inch vertical, 10, 11 broad jump. Now you go through it and you say, the guy only had 13 runs of 10 plus yards during his time. Why didn't he have more explosive runs? That'll be where the digging has to be when you look at his film, because athletically, he should be able to deliver more than he's done, but he's certainly on the radar scouts looking for a big back that can be a banger.
Yeah, look, and I think, I'll just give you a brief history because teams are obviously going to dig into a player like that. He was a freshman at Oklahoma in April of 2021. Did some of this kind of look back as we were getting ready for him at the Senior Bowl. And look, he made a bad decision. He and two of his Sooner teammates stole some jewelry and high-dollar shoes and cash from a Norman, Oklahoma apartment. One of the other players was armed with a gun during the incident. There were some issues there. Players were initially charged with robbery, conspiracy to commit robbery. They were convicted. They could have, had they been convicted, they could have spent decades in prison. Instead, they pled guilty to larceny. McGowan actually spent 3 months in jail before his plea. He then kind of went on this journey. He was dismissed from the Sooners. Went on this journey through an NAIA Texas college, where he was there for a little while. He went, didn't really play. 23, spent at JUCO. He was desperate for another opportunity. He was scrolling Twitter direct messages like back from when he was in high school from coaches that were trying to recruit him. Ended up finding a guy who he had a connection with, was a offensive coordinator, Jeff Nixon, from when Nixon was a position coach at Baylor. And they had offered him a scholarship. They didn't have a spot for him at Syracuse where Nixon ended up at the time, but he had worked for the Carolina Panthers with David Cobb. I mean, like, they just he went through all these connections, ended up in New Mexico State, finally gave McGowan the opportunity that he had been searching for. Did well there, re-entered the transfer portal, and then ended up at Kentucky where he finished and had a nice year. And then now trying to, kind of continue to atone for those things. But he has done that. He now wants to be and has tried to be like a beacon for guys that are struggling with mental health and with issues that can, cause you some problems off the field. So he's trying to turn a bad decision that he made into something that can help guys in the future, which I thought was really cool. Let's move to the quarterbacks and the wideouts. Those were the next two groups that were on the field. Well, we got to start with Taylon Green.
Absolutely.
4'3", 6'6", 240 pounds. 4'3", jumps 11'2" in the broad. Combine record, Bucky. Mm-hmm. No quarterback has ever jumped 11 feet, period. He goes 11'2", 5 inches further than the previous combine record, which was shared by another former Arkansas quarterback who actually made the switch to wide receiver in the NFL in Matt Jones. And then he outjumps Anthony Richardson in the vert, who had the record, by 3 inches. 43.5 in the vert, 11'2" in the broad. I'm just like, holy smokes.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable athlete. You put it on display. You just don't see guys with this kind of length, this kind of explosiveness at quarterback. 4'3", 43.5 inch vertical, that 11'2" broad. I mean, you just talk about a dynamic athlete. Most explosive quarterback workout that we've ever seen, but he's a developmental prospect. Now, what that does is it forces you to go back into the meeting room and have these hard discussions. Okay, when do we take him? What do we do with him when he gets here? What is the building plan for him to develop, and what can we envision him being down the road? All those things have to be in play. Also, you have to approach him potentially about, is there a slash role in his future? Would he be willing to do that? Because we've seen these athletes, and I think naturally about Terrell Pryor. And I think about Terrell Pryor from Ohio State and how he was resistant to it for a while. But then when he finally accepted it, oh, by the way, he becomes a Pro Bowl caliber receiver and puts up a 1,000-yard season and does some of those things with those athletic traits. Is Green willing to take that path if it's presented to him?
Right. We'll see how all that works out. He has made it clear that he is the quarterback and certainly understand that. Now, the thing is, like, are you delaying the inevitable by starting there? Or are you saying, like, look, let's see what he's got. Let's let him play himself out of the quarterback spot and into something else. But are you missing out on valuable development years at the next position? Like there's a dance there.
There is a dance. And look, he's always been a quarterback, so you let him have to fully exhaust that. Yeah. But you have to take him with an eye towards what he could be. Right. And being able to convince him. Joe Webb. I think about Joe Webb from the Minnesota Vikings, the Carolina Panthers, who also had to do some of those things. there's a saying in the league, the more you can do. Someone has to convey it to him, so he at least is willing to hear it. So he's not so resistant to it because it would open up some options.
Terrell Pryor, 2016, last year with the Cleveland Browns. He's 27 years old at the time, came into the league at 23 in 2012 with the Raiders. So 2016, he goes 77 catches for over 1,000 yards. You wonder, like, if he had made the switch earlier, what would have happened?
Yeah,
right.
like
so
what could have been one of the best athletes that we've seen.
Certainly something to think about. All right, quarterbacks that are going to be some of the next quarterbacks off the board after Fernando Mendoza. We're out here. Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Carson Beck. How do you sort through that group right now?
Man, I think they all had their moments. I think right now the pecking order would probably suggest that Ty Simpson is next, and then it's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder after that. And Ty Simpson, who didn't do any of the athletic stuff but elected to throw. You see a guy who's very clean mechanically. You can see that he can spin it. He can do those things, and the comparisons are Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield and those things. But the limited experience, with only 15 starts, it's hard to say, hey, in 2026, he's going to be your franchise quarterback. What you hope, situation where you have a veteran quarterback in place, you can develop him on the side. Maybe in 2027, 2028, he can get on the field and do those things. It's unlikely given the fast trajectory that people have in the league, but I think that is what would be best for Ty Simpson. But he is certainly, after Mendoza, to me, he's next in line to come off the board.
Yeah, it feels the same for me there. I got him as my number 2 quarterback as well. I think the debate really becomes at who's the third at this point. And I think it's, again, Nussmeier, Beck, Aller, and out of those guys, I thought Nussmeier had some flashes, showed you, okay, he's healthy again. And that's why he put up over 4,000 passing yards in 2024 and really struggled in 25. He was hurt on the second day of training camp. He didn't even play a single game healthy for LSU last year, and everything crumbled around him. Same can be said for Drew Aller. Things really exploded around him and unraveled for Penn State this year. I thought he showed moments of allure for Aller, right, with his big body type, his big arm. Like, he can move that thing now. Again, it's just, how do you navigate the peaks and the valleys with that group?
Really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And
same
that's
with
where, so for all of those guys, you're trying to weigh who has the most upside, who has a realistic possibility of being a quarterback that can come in and maybe do some Tyler Shutt stuff. But it's going to be a roll of the dice because it's system, it's fit, it's coaching. There's so many different things that go into it. But it's going to be fascinating discussion as we do the path to the draft. Who is QB3? That is going to be one of the discussions that we'll have to have over and over again as teams are weighing who's QB3 versus the veteran quarterback market and who could shake loose.
Yeah, again, I thought Luke Altmaier was up there after, he and Cole Payton both were the guys who ran of note outside of Taylor Green in the 40-yard dash. Payton runs 4.5. He's got a rocket ship of a left arm out of North Dakota State. Again, only 1 year starting, as he kind of waited his time behind Cam Miller. And then Altmaier is a veteran, ton of experience, going to be a value add in any quarterback room. So those guys will be interesting to watch as well. For the wideouts, obviously you want to talk about fast. You're going to talk about Mississippi State's Brennan Thompson.
Yeah.
Look, when you run 10-1 and 100 in high school, you're going to run
you
fast.
already know.
And he is the combine speed king at 4.26 official, which is equivalent in a Madden NFL speed projection of 97 speed.
Ooh, that's fast.
Now, practical application of that speed, Bucky, he's the guy who led the SEC in 40-plus yard catches, 50-plus yard catches, 30-plus yard catches. So, we've seen it translate to the field as well.
Yeah, it translates to the field really well, and it's put him in a role that allows him to do what he does well. There's always a place in a wide receiver on the wide receiver core for someone that is the designated vertical stretch guy. And if you can do other things, return, gadget guy, whatever, he'll find his way onto a roster. But that speed is real. You can feel it when he was running.
Yeah, another receiver or two.
Zachariah Branch is a guy that helped himself just in terms of confirming the time. You saw him as a slot receiver doing the underneath stuff. A bunch of bubbles and screens are on his film, but running 4.3. Now you're hopeful that he can do more at the next level. Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, another guy that confirmed the vertical stretchability. Comparisons have been made to Christian Watson, who's flat flashed at the Green Bay Packers. When you put 4.37 on your card and you're tall and athletic like that, that helps. Your guy, Omar Cooper, I think, helped himself. The 4.4.
He's a first rounder now.
Oh, wow. Like
what?
The 4.4 now. When I'm talking to people,
4.42.
People like him. People like him because he's a pro. You got the route running ability, the speed, everything. He just continues to check box along the way. I will say, people will find him comfortable. He's the safest, maybe, of all those wide receivers, which will help him get drafted
in the first round. Physical yak artist is Omar Cooper. I'll keep the Hoosier love going with Elijah Surratt, who did not test, but did run routes and did compete in the field drills. And that's where he excels. I don't know what his measurables are going to be, but I'm telling you right now that this dude knows how to get in and out of breaks. He is explosive at the break point, and you can't simulate a back shoulder over here, but he is a warrior at the catch point. I thought he was excellent running routes. I thought the two USC receivers, Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, this might have been the best piece of the Jacoby Lane draft process so far.
Yeah, now this was really good for Lane because he hadn't shown up. You talked about
didn't see him as much in the Senior Bowl.
Didn't see him much, and then even watch tape, you're like, man, okay, what can he be?
Yeah.
Well, he showed up. He caught the ball really well, ran route. Same thing can be said for Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, Mekhi Lemon is just a smooth operator. Again, we'll see at USC's Pro Day what they end up testing, but man. Those guys were really good. There was some. Skylar Bell is worthy of mention as well. Fast, jump far.
Deion Burks, Oklahoma, slot receiver, 4.30, 42.5-inch vertical, 10-1 broad jump. Slot receiver with bursts.
Yes.
He's intriguing.
Yeah, and then we had another 4.2 with the receiver from LSU, Xavier Thomas. There it is, Xavier Thomas. And then I would also say they've got Barryon Brown, they've got Aaron Anderson and Chris Hill. Like, they have 4 receivers LSU did here. So
you gotta wonder, why weren't they better? That'd be the question. Why wasn't LSU better?
Because the quarterback was hurt. Because the team unraveled around them. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around here. So a lot of guys on the redemption tour, and this is always a big spot. I think some fun names to watch today at the Combine. If you're listening to this on Sunday of Combine weekend, Jennings Dunker, Ole Vavinga, Yawani, a bunch of tackles. We got a pair from Utah. Lomu and Fano, which will be big, and then we'll see what the big tackles from Miami do. Maui Noah and Markel Bell.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch. Everyone's looking for the bigs. Everyone's excited about this class up front.
Let's go.
Last day of the Combine. Can't wait to see what happens.
All right, we'll check back with you guys next week with a full Combine recap when DJ rejoins the show. This is Move the Sticks from the Combine.